Hey everyone, hope you are doing well. Today I'm going to teach you how to work out percentages by hand. I'm going to do that by, giving you a brief description of the techniques I would use, and we'll go through these two questions. So I do want to say before the video begins that some people probably watch this and work these out in their own way. I think when you're at a lower level of mathematics, like things like this, where we're kind of doing it by hand a bit, I think in those scenarios, it can be a bit more, subjective how you want to approach something. So there's not necessarily a set technique, but I'll show you my technique. And if anyone has any feedback or better techniques, please feel free to drop them in the comments, because ultimately, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you show you're working, get the right answer, and everyone's going to be different. So I would say do what feels right for you. So now I've explained that part. In terms of 25% of 80, so the first thing I think of here is like, well, 25% is a quarter. How do I know it's a quarter? Well, 100% is the whole number. So if you had 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%, there's 4 of them to make up that 100%. So I also feel like the more time you spend with percentages, the more easily you're going to know that. If you weren't sure, how big it is as a fraction, you could also, divide 100 by 25 and see how many times it goes into it. But this is effectively a quarter of 80. So that's how I would think of it. So I would do 80 divided by 4, and then that's going to be equal to 20. So another way you could look at it is, I think quite often when you're looking at percentages, a really easy way to start is by looking at 10% or 1%, because from there you can kind of get these sort of, I don't know, building structures for the question. So for example, 10% of something is really easy. You just take the 0 off, or you move the decimal. I mean, you're technically moving the number, but so for example, 10% of 80 will be 8, because you're just moving that decimal or getting rid of the 0. So another way to work this out could be 10% is equal to 8. And we know 10 plus 10 plus 5% is equal to 25. So 10% is equal to 8, because we've got 10%, 10%, that's 20%. And then 5% is going to be half of this. Yeah? So that would just be equal to 4. So you can add them all up, and that's going to equal 20. So same answer, slightly different technique. Those are two ways you can kind of tackle percentages by hand. This is a really good generic approach. This one happens to just be a quarter, so that's probably more of a one-off approach, but I think this is quite a solid approach for tackling all percentage questions. So question number 2, I don't know if you want to maybe give this technique a go yourself, or you don't have to, because I'm about to go through it anyway. So 15% of 200, right? So like I said before, you could work out 1% or 10%. So 1%, you'd remove the 2 zeros, quite easy to do, is 2. So let's just remove 1 to get 10%, because we're dividing it by 10. Like for example, if you had 18, so it didn't have a 0 at the end, then you divide it by 10, what you can do is you'll just put, the point is here, you're effectively moving the point here, so it'd be 1.8. So 1.8, divided by 10 is equal to 1.8. So you can see it's quite easy to work out 10%. And from there, you can work out 1% or 5%, depending on whether you want to divide it by 10 again, or by 2, or however you want to do it. So 10% is equal to 20. So 5% is going to be equal to half of that, equal to 10. So your final answer, you can add them up too, I guess. This pen's running out of it. So 15% is equal to 30, you see, because we've added that up, and we've added that up, and we got the 10% quite easily, and then from there we got the 5, and then we just added them together. So for me, I would say that's the best kind of general technique and approach I've always used. I don't know if I was necessarily taught that, or if this is a set technique, because in my opinion, especially when you get to a lower level, and no offense to anyone at this level, when you get to this level of mathematics, it's not as complex as, you know, quadratic formulas where you can use a set method or formula. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you're at this level, you know, doesn't matter if you find it hard, because you know it will click and you will learn it. You just have to do some practice. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it was clear. If you do have any sort of comments or questions, you can let me know down below. I'll try to get back to you there. And again, if you guys have better techniques or you have a technique you prefer, you know, use it. You know, it's about getting the answer, showing you're working. It doesn't matter what technique you use. So if you made it to this point in the video, thank you for watching. I hope it helped, and best of luck with all your maths.